told you if we broke attendance records, I'd get the church logo tattooed on my arm.
Skip, remember back when we first started? All we did was preach the gospel.
Ooh, Superman works. I like Superman. Guy, what do you think?
What happened to you?
Me? Your dad is the one with the gimmicks.
The power of the Holy Spirit propels us.
I just want the church to get back to the gospel.
Problem is you're trying to get your message across.
The gospel?
Right. And ain't nobody listening to that.
For Good Friday and Easter, I need something big. Amen?
Bigger than the resurrection.
For those who haven't heard of this movie, Church People, could you give a brief summary about it?
Sure. It's about a youth pastor he's America's favorite youth pastor, Guy Sides. And he finds himself caught up in the marketing machine that has become some churches. And the one that he's working with is a mega church, and it has been caught up in the marketing machine and branding, and it's all about the show. And he finds himself really frustrated and tired with that. And he even says like it feels like it's eating him up. And he just wants to break free and go back to preaching the gospel again like he used to. Him and his senior pastor both used to preach the simplicity of the gospel. But over the years for the senior pastor, it became more about the bells and whistles and getting more souls in the seats. And the show and the spectacle became the focus and not the simplicity of the gospel. So Guy Sides, played by Thor Ramsey, who's also one of the writers and producers, he's trying to break out of that. And he's surrounded by not only his over-the-top zealous senior pastor, played by Michael Monks, Pastor Skip, but he's also surrounded by zany people like the worship leader, played by Joey Fatone, who basically thinks his life is a musical. And so he sings practically everything. And so he's surrounded by characters like that. But then Carla shows up, played by Erin Cahill, fabulous actress. We had such a great cast in this. It's such a wonderful cast. Anyway, Carla comes alongside him as a voice of reason and tries to encourage him because he's not in favor of what's going on around him, but he's also got kind of a defeatist attitude, like my voice doesn't matter kind of a thing going on in his head. And so she's basically his voice of reason and encouragement to do the right thing.
And what was the genesis of the film?
How did it come about?
Mm-hmm.
So Thor Ramsey this was probably somewhere in the ballpark of 2008-ish. He was monitoring low-budget independent films because he wanted to make a movie. And so the film Swingers, directed by Jon Favreau and starring Jon Favreau and Vince Vaughn, came on his radar. And he liked the tone of the movie comedically. He thought the comedy tone was good. And so he wanted to translate that same comedic tone to something in the evangelical subculture. And so his original idea was a youth pastor in crisis, and he submitted a number of rewrites with somebody at Sony Faith named Josh Nadler, and Josh was very gracious to go through about five notes with him from different drafts. And one of the things that he said was, what this story needs to bring all the characters together is a big idea. And so Thor now is got his antennas up for the big idea, and one of his pastor friends, who's a church planter, called him up and said, "You're never going to believe what this church is going to do on Good Friday. They're going to crucify a live human being." And he's like, "No way." He's like, "Way, I'm looking at their advertising." So they research it, and it come to find out it wasn't true. They weren't really going to crucify somebody, but their advertising of the Passion Play made it come across as though it was going to be a real crucifixion. But here's the point. For a moment, Thor and his pastor friend actually believed that an American evangelical church would actually try to pull off a stunt like that. And then he's like, now I have my big idea. So that's where that part of the story came from. And the script's been through many, many rewrites. Thor did about 30 drafts on his own. And then a man named Bob Sands did a draft. And then Thor and Wes Halula did the shooting script, what we shot. So, yeah, it's been through a number of rewrites, a number of years in the making. I got attached to this project in early 2010. And in late 2010, we did what's called a proof of concept trailer. So we took scenes from Thor's script at that time and put it together into like a little mock trailer, basically saying, hey, this is what the movie could look like if somebody funded it. Wink, wink, you know? And so I started pitching that on social media. A couple years later, Stephen Baldwin was attracted to it, and he came on board to help find the funding for the movie. And 3.5 years after that, cameras were rolling on what was then titled Youth Group. And if you watch the virtual screening that's available right now, or if you watch it on Salem Now on demand, it's available right now. I believe it's also after the credits on that, but look after the credits and you'll find behind the scenes footage and interviews from set when it was still called Youth Group. The title didn't change to Church People until probably a year or two after we wrapped production.
And that answer kind of ease way to my next question, which is how did you come up with the title Church People?
I don't 100% know because Thor and I weren't really a part of that title change. We got to chime in and throw in our opinions of basically it started out being Youth Group, and then the story that I heard was that when they were pitching it to distributors, they kept getting feedback that you got to change the title because it's not really about the youth. And we knew that. We knew it wasn't really about the youth, and that was kind of the point of the movie, because there's even a line in the movie that addresses that topic, that, you know, why the title is Youth Group. I won't give that away. But anyway, so we got to chime in and we got to like throw out some suggestions because it looked like the title was going to change. And I guess Church People was just one of those ones that I don't know. I'm not sure who came up with it, but it's one of the ones that stuck, and so now it's called Church People. So we're used to it now, and it's we didn't really like the title at first, but it's grown on us, so we're used to it, and I can speak for myself. I like it now.
Which scene was your favorite to shoot, and which one was like the most difficult?
Oh, that's a great question. I'm usually not very good with favorites except for food. My favorite food is pepperoni pizza with extra cheese. Round table pepperoni pizza with extra cheese. Original crust. But I would say one of my favorite scenes to shoot, I don't know about the favorite, but certainly one of the funniest scenes in the movie and one of my favorite scenes on the day was the house scene where we see Billy Baldwin and China Phillips and Thor Ramsey and Aaron Cahill and Clancy McCartney, who plays one of the youth, Blaze. So that was a hilarious scene, and I remember sitting watching the monitor in the director's chair and just like smiling ear to ear because it was just they nailed it. Billy and China nailed that scene. It's such a great job. The most difficult scene, I keep thinking, and you know, it's been a few years since we shot it, but I keep thinking it might have been with the beach balls that dropped down from above. We had a couple of different shots like that, but I think that was one of the most difficult, just simply because we were limited on time, and it was quite the rig to set up. There was a giant net above, and there were, I don't know, 50 to 100 or more beach balls, maybe. There were a bunch. I think they bought somewhere around 500 beach balls for production. So it was somewhere between 1 and 500, maybe. I don't know. But it was, so a whole team of people to set that up and get it ready. And then I believe we had 2 cameras running. So we had 2 different angles. And I think the one I'm thinking of in particular is when the balls drop on one of the actors at the end of the movie. I believe we shot it maybe 3 times. We did like 3 different takes, and that was probably one of the most challenging because logistically, that's what's coming to mind. But I mean, we had a lot of challenging shoot days in general because on average, whether it's a TV show or a movie, you tend to shoot around 5 to 6 pages, 5.5 pages of dialogue per shoot day, for like a 12-hour shoot day. And there were a couple of days where I think we had 8 pages to shoot, or really, really close to 8 pages. And then there were probably more days than that we had 6 or 7 pages to shoot. So in general, it was a challenging shoot to do in 20 days. But we did it. And that's kudos to a fabulous team, both in front of and behind the camera. I was surrounded by consummate professionals.
And what was your experience working with the screenwriters on this film?
I didn't have a lot of interaction in the writing process per se. I typically let the writers do what the writers do, and then I might have a suggestion here or there. So Thor was primarily, doing the rewrites himself. And then when Bob Sands came along, I did have a meeting with Bob, and he shared with me some of the ideas that he was going to incorporate. Because that was a major revamping of some of the story elements. And then when Wes and Thor did the shooting script, I sat in on those meetings, and I chimed in, and I was kind of the laugh track. If you've ever seen any interviews with Thor and me together, I'm kind of his laugh track. so that's one of the things I'm known for. So I didn't really have much of a hand in the writing process itself, but I was certainly privy to it, and I was certainly getting updates and so on and so forth. And I was able to chime in, but I wasn't super hands-on in the writing process.
And he mentioned earlier that your cast members did a fantastic job, and I think they really did. So what was an interesting fact that you learned about each of them, whether Joey or Thor or anybody? Just an interesting fun fact about them.
Oh, interesting fun fact. Well, shooting a movie can be very, very fun, for one, especially when you have fun people. Here's a fun fact. I've worked with Thor on a number of short films before we did this feature. And one thing that even though filmmaking can be a lot of fun, there can still be tense moments on set because of the challenges that you're facing pretty much every day. And it's usually a lot of the same challenges. It's usually time. You're fighting the sun going down, or just the whole workday as a general thing. But Thor and I, over the years of doing short films together, we eventually came up with this little plan of action that we have on set. If one of us notices that things are starting to get tense, and we remember to do this, one of us yells out, "Fun!" Because think about it. We're making a movie. We're doing something that people dream about doing and that most people will never, ever, ever, ever do in their lives, and we're doing it. So it should be fun. And it is fun when you have the right perspective. So that's a fun fact and a little tip for budding filmmakers or even experienced filmmakers out there. If you're looking for a new hack to maybe ease the tension on set. If it gets tense, just somebody yell out, "Fun! We're making a movie, people!" You know, I mean, we're incredibly blessed and privileged to have this opportunity.
Which directors inspired you when you were becoming an aspiring filmmaker?
I really like I like different styles of filmmaking, but one of my favorite styles of filmmaking is the gliding, moving shots. And so people who nail that are like Steven Spielberg, Robert Zemeckis, Michael Bay. Just those, like, you know, the push-ins and the gliding, moving, you know, the camera's constantly moving. I love that. And they're fabulous storytellers, especially people like Spielberg and Zemeckis. Incredible storytellers. I like a handful of Ron Howard stuff too. So certainly lots of inspiration over the years of watching movie, you know, from childhood and, you know, on up.
What's your favorite film when you were a kid, and what's your favorite right now?
That favorite question again. I don't have a favorite, so let me think. When I was a kid, well, I guess, you know, one of my favorites as a kid was Star Wars. I believe the first time I saw it was at the drive-in, if I remember correctly. So that was one of my favorites. Another favorite as a kid, I really liked Tim Conway and Don Knotts movies. And there was one called Private Eyes, where they played private investigators, and it was very funny, especially to me as a kid. Nowadays, let's see. One of my favorites, and it's kind of a sleeper, I think. I don't know how well it did at the box office, but I thought it was one of the best films that year. Was Dan in Real Life, with Steve Carell, Diane Weiss, Dane Cook, John Mahoney. I know I'm missing people, but it had a great cast, and it was just, I saw it in the theater with a group of friends, and we all loved it, I think. And I was just, it was one of those ones. Have you seen it? Have you seen Dan in Real Life?
Funny enough, I've seen the poster with his head.
Oh my God. Yeah.
It was an interesting poster, but I haven't seen
way better than the poster. Way better than the poster, way better than the trailer. I mean, just a fabulous film. But you're sitting there because he's in a very peculiar situation for the weekend. And so, like, at the beginning of the weekend, this situation presents itself, and you're like, how in the world is he going, like, how are they going to navigate this? Because it's a very nuanced, complex situation. And I just thought they did a brilliant job. I mean, the directing, the editing, the acting, the casting. I mean, it was all, like, brilliantly done. And you're like, how are they going to resolve it? And then I think they did a really good job resolving it too. So that's one of my favorites. Another favorite is Babe, which people usually respond to. The Pig movie? Yes, the Pig movie, Babe. Phenomenal film. But there's so many. I mean, like, I really, really liked The Passion of the Christ film, which is based on the best-selling book. That movie was one of the best Christian films I've ever seen. Of course, The Passion of the Christ. Wait, did I say The Passion of the Christ? I meant The Case for Christ. Sorry. The Case for Christ was the first one. And then, of course, The Passion of the Christ. I Can Only Imagine, the Erwin Brothers. I mean, there's so many. I also like the Kendrick Brothers movies. I like Courageous. I liked Overcomer. I liked War Room. So, I mean, you know, I like a bunch of movies. But I'm also very picky, too. So, there's a lot of movies I won't see because of content, and so on and so forth. But yeah, there's a list. I'm not even sure I can name my top 10 favorite because there's so many that I really like. Okay, here's one more. Spider-Man 2 with Tobey Maguire. That was a stellar movie. Stellar.
Which of your previous short films would you like to make into a feature film?
Very easy, and we have a script for it. Skip Listening. Skip Listening was my very first collaboration with Thor Ramsey in 2010. And when we were ramping up to shoot that one, that's when he told me about what's now known as Church People, but back then he called it Youth Group. That's when he told me about his youth group script. And one of the reasons he came on are because we did skip listening for a speed filmmaking competition called the 168 Film Project. Shout out to 168film.com. Fabulous competition, fabulous festival. If you ever have the opportunity to do a short film and you want to get something done and you want to do it quick, it's challenging, but if you surround yourself with like-minded people, it's a lot of fun. I love it. Thor and I have done it several times together. I did it once before him, but ever since then, it's pretty much always been with him for the most part, I think. Fabulous experience. And if you have the opportunity to go to the 168 International Film Festival, do it, because if your work is well received, then, you get to hobnob with people and they want to, if people like your stuff, they want to work with you. I mean, that's pretty much how, I could trace so many projects back to my participation in the 168, including church people, because that's how I met Thor in person. But anyway, we want to make a feature of Skip Listening. We shot it in 2010 for the 168. It was runner-up Best Film, runner-up Best Comedy, and runner-up Best Comedy Screenplay at the festival. And it was a great experience, and we have a script. So, wink, wink. Anybody out there want to fund a feature-length version of Skip Listening? You can see the short on my YouTube channel. My YouTube channel is youtube.com/CSS301. Or just go to YouTube search and type in Skip Listening Thor Ramsey. You'll find it.
And which novel or novella or short story or even an article that you've read or know that you would like to adapt and make into a feature film?
Great question. I have a friend in Michigan. Her name is Jamie A. Hope, and I'm attached to a few of her scripts. She doesn't have a script for this one yet, but she has a novel or a novella. I'm not sure what the difference is. I think it's a novel. But it's called Illusion. It's available on Amazon. Just type in, books and Illusion, and you'll see it there. It's a big budget movie, though, because there's a lot of CGI involved in that one. But we'd like to adapt that into a screenplay and make that a major motion picture.
What do you want viewers to take away from watching Church People?
A lot of laughter. A lot of laughter and leaving the experience better for it. And the feedback has been fabulous. People are laughing, people are crying, some people are sobbing, and some people are self-reflecting. So I really want people to have a great time watching it, but also, glean from it, because I think when we watch it, we can find a little bit of ourselves or a lot of ourselves in one or more of the characters. So really enjoy the character journey, laugh with them, laugh at some of the, ridiculous things that we do, but know that there's redemption at the end of the story. So we can be redeemed. Amen to that.
And this is my last question. In the spirit of the film, what object would you nail at the cross?
Wow. Oh my golly. That is a great question, man. What object? Oh my golly. What object? I don't know. I'm sure there is one that I could, but I'm blanking. Especially if I had to do an object, because I think mine is more of an idea. I think the idea, if I could nail an idea to the cross, I think it would be the idea of, being famous or somewhere in that realm. Because my backstory is I actually grew up wanting to be an actor. So I went to college for acting. I went to Otterbein College. It's now Otterbein University. And I was an acting major. Theater performance was my major for 4 years. And I had stars in my eyes. And I wanted to be a famous and well-liked movie actor. That's what I really, really wanted. And over the years, my heart was changing. And I found myself more and more behind the camera and enjoying that more. There was a period of time where I wished that I could have been in front of the camera and behind the camera at the exact same time because I loved both. But over the years, I found myself enjoying directing more. By the way, did you catch my director cameo in Church People?
Actually, no, I didn't. Where were you at? What scene?
It was in the first couple of minutes of the movie when he gets the beach ball on stage and he's like, "What am I supposed to do with this?" And the guy runs out and hands him a Sharpie. That was me. So, but anyway, but even though that was fun and everything, like it doesn't compare anymore to directing. So, but still, you have the stars in your eyes and you have I want to see my name in lights kind of a thing. So I guess if I had to nail something to the cross, it would be that the selfish desire of wanting to be famous and wanting to be well known and well liked would really, we only truly need to be known and liked by our Savior, Jesus Christ. So I want to hear, "Well done, my good and faithful servant," not, "Hey, great job getting your name on that movie." I want to hear, "Well done, my good and faithful servant."
Bigger than anything we've ever done. National headlines.
Preach on the death and resurrection of Jesus.
Bam! An actual crucifixion.
Uh-oh.
By placing the nails through your palms in the right place, we hope to avoid major nerve damage.
Operation Stop Skip is a go. That's awesome.
You have to cancel this Good Friday stunt.
Don't be so dramatic, honey. Ooh, I like the rusty ones.
What are you gonna do?
I told him he's insane.
Been praying for you about that toe fungus.
This could be beneficial for all parties involved.
We foster a yes environment here.
God wanted me to marry you and you could be my wife.
I have an answer for you.